Oh, I said that moment at 30 Rally. Everyone was 30 Rally.
Okay, so I want to do two quick things before I begin. One, I want to introduce you to a new word, and that's Toujours, and that's French, and it just means every day, and I just want you to keep that in your back pocket, okay? The second thing that I want to tell you is my favorite book in the entire world. It's my Bible. It's called Hopscotch by Julio Cortázar, and it's often compared to James Joyce's Ulysses. I think Ulysses is like hopscotch, but that's me. And he has this wonderful, wonderful phrase in chapter 73 in the second page. And he says, we burn within our work, fabulous mortal honor, high challenge of the phoenix. There's something really interesting that happens if you go to the MIT library in the Student Center right in front of 77 Mass Ave. It's really, really interesting because you go in and the smell, my God. And it's really interesting because you get confused and you have a really weird cognitive dissonance in which something that might have seemed repugnant at some point suddenly becomes kind of like sexy, you know? And it's really interesting because you see them and you see how they disregard their hygiene, their mental health, their physical health. You know, they don't eat, and they don't even work on their presentation. And you just kind of have to wonder to yourself, it's like, what possible things could those people be wrestling in their minds? You know, what secrets of the universe are these people unlocking that helps them, that lets them do that? It is something humbling and awe-inspiring to share a desk with these people. It truly is. And the thing is, you know what? They do have interesting and colorful backstories, just like you and me. And sometimes they're very sad, too. In fact, some of these people come from the worst possible places in the world. And they come from, like, cruel families, and they come from cruel environments in which they were raised in. However, that's not the point. That's not the point. They disregard that as they do their work. And it is acknowledged, but that's not the point. The point is that when we don't look at things as long as we need to look at them, when we don't know the names of things, when we don't know the differences of things, when we don't know the difference between Chan Buddhism and Zen Buddhism and their respective Japanese and Chinese stories, when we don't know why Camus and Sartre were best friends and then they never spoke again, when we don't know why Truffaut and Godard never spoke to each other again, when we don't know the difference between turquoise and light blue, or mauve and violet, and we don't know the difference between Nelson Mandela and Che Guevara, when we don't know the difference of the connection between existentialist humanism and Cuban totalitarian communism, when we don't know these things, you know, we're living in a world of pure abstraction. And that, my friends, is true desolation. I want to share some pieces with you because I've been a part of a few artistic collectives. I've recorded some music. I've had some things published here and there, and we do a lot of things. And these are kind of like conceptualist performance pieces. And so this is the first one. You know, I got in the center of the room in a position of attention, and I wanted to make an experiment. I wanted to know if it was possible to move forward without having or taking any impulse from what's behind and what's left and what's past. You know, and so I tried three different things. The first one, I thought, you know, I'll just ease my legs like a rag doll, like this. And I realized that, you know, I didn't get any further at all. I didn't. I just felt all over my first position, and so I had a second idea. You know what? I'm going to use gravity and try to tip myself forward, and that way I will move forward, right? And so I did it, but I was still here, and I needed to grasp something from what was left and what was past, and so I tried a third thing. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do the same thing again, but I'm going to quickly put my right foot forward. And so I did that, but then I realized that I still needed this impulse from my left, from what was left and what was past. And so the moral of the story here starts getting a clarity of a different kind here. We can ignore the past as much as we want, but if you don't contextualize your position, if you have no context, even a little bit, you have no direction. The second piece that I want to do is, Cortázar, he tells us that what we need to do is we need to invent our own autonomy. Short story writer William Gibson, he says, we need to develop our personal microculture, our own personal microculture. And a lot of really lefty websites nowadays, they talk about how you need to create your own personal ethnography. And so I want to tell you this piece, and I want you to know that the staple is not meant to mean anything in particular. The point is that you make it mean what you want in your life. So one day I was with he's my roommate now. We've been friends since we were freshmen, and we created this kind of ironic collective. It was called the Boylston Anarchist Cooperative Library. It was all very tongue-in-cheek. And we were trying to kind of work with poems, and we had workshops with other people who were freshmen at the time who were interested in that kind of reading. And I remember I was sitting there writing some things, and then I saw on the glass table, in between the glass and the steel that was there to hold the glass there, I saw a little staple. And it was the strangest, weirdest staple I've seen in my entire life. And so I asked my friend, Matt, it's like, dude, do you own a stapler? Do you keep staples around? He's like, no, dude, no. And I'm not a big fan of staples. Honestly, I know some friends who prefer paper clips, but this staple, it was the strangest staple in the strangest of places. It was a cosmic thing that we were like meant to find each other. And so I look at it, and it's so small. I know that if I just put it in my pocket, I'm going to lose it, because it's so small. And so I start thinking of ways of how to be able to keep it and store it somehow. So I had a college-ruled notebook from which I tore a college-ruled notebook piece of paper, and I grabbed the college-ruled notebook piece of paper, and I started folding it like an accordion. And so I folded this college-ruled piece of notebook paper again, and I decided how I was going to keep it. I was going to make 2 holes on the left side so I could put its 2 little legs in the piece of paper. And when I realized is that I was going to have to bend the staple so it would actually stay there, right? And so then I'm just thinking, this is a little staple, so small, it's already been bent so much. I can only bend it so much before it breaks, right? And so as I'm trying to work with it, I get really scared and really hesitant, and I can't keep going, and then my thumb starts bleeding. And so I realize, you know what? No, this is not going to work. I need to find some way to make sure this staple stays on this piece of paper. And so I saw the Scotch tape dispenser to my right, and I knew what I was going to have to do. I was going to have to take away the cosmic right of the staple to leave the piece of paper. And I didn't care, or I wouldn't care, and I've never known. But as I tore the Scotch tape from the dispenser, and my thumb had blood on it, and my tears were going, I put it on the piece of paper. My friend saw it, and he took it away from me, started making fun of me. And, I was crying. I was, please return it. And so he did. And I keep it in my back pocket, always, to remember who I am. And I want to tell you this last little piece. It's one of the most beautiful couplets I've ever written. My name is Ernesto. I ran here to see you. I survived somehow to say this toujours.